Okay, 48b. Okay, so we're trying to figure out this word oso in the section regarding the. Oh, there we go. In the section regarding the nasi, it says the word oso to morning, Charles and Nana, to exclude something. So we just mentioned yesterday you would have thought that really a bird has to be in the north because the bird has to be done by a Kohen and the flock doesn't have to be done by a Kohen. Therefore, oso tells you that the bird does not have to be in the north. Fine. That we reject this and we say Mala ben Tzon shekain kavalokli. Maybe you can't derive one from another because by the flock, by the Ola offering, you have to use a vessel. But by the bird, by the Malika process of the bird, the Kohen uses his hands, not a vessel. He uses it with his hands. So, okay. So therefore, Oso is not teaching us about the bird. What is Oso teaching us? Oso b'tzafon, the Ein Pesach b'tzafon. Oso tells you that this offering, meaning the Nasi's offering, the leader's offering, when he brings the sin offering, it has to be in the north. The Ein Pesach b'tzafon, but the Korban Pesach does not need to be brought in the north. The Tanya, as the Brisa says, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, Pesach telling something, you would have thought the Korban Pesach has a requirement that it has to be in the north. The dinhu, and it's very logical. Why? An ola offering doesn't have a set time. Whenever it's time to bring an ola, you bring the ola. And yet that's a leniency, and yet there's a stringency. It's got to be slaughtered in the north. Pesach shekavalozman l'shchitaso. Pesach has a set time for its slaughtering. Eino din shi kavalot tzafon. Shouldn't it also be done in the north? It's more strict than an ola because it has a set time. So for sure that should be in the north. Talmud Lomer Oso. No. Talmud Oso teaches you that the Pesach offering does not need to be in the north. And now the Gemara is going to bring a bunch of rebuttals. So Mala Ola, you can't learn out of an Ola. Shekain Kollel, it's fully consumed. It's different. I learned from Achatas. No, Mechatas, Valachatas Shekain Mechaperes. Achatas is unique that it atones for sin, for krisis offer, for krisis averas. It atones for them. So you can't learn from Achatas offering either. The Korban Pesach offering. May Asham, maybe learn Pesach from an Asham. No, Mala Asham Shekain Kache Kadashim. An Asham is a very holy offering. So says the Mikula Nami Shekain Kache Kadashim. Well, once you mention that rebuttal that they're all holy offerings, then Asham is a very holy offering. They're all very holy offerings. Basically saying you cannot compare the Korban Pesach to any of the offerings, and therefore the word Oso cannot be coming to teach you that. So after a whole roller coaster trying to figure out what Oso means, we end up back where we started. The Olam, Kida Amran, Miikara, Oso B'tzafon, the Ein Shochet B'tzafon. That the person has to be standing in the north. The animal has to be standing in the north. The Ein Shochet B'tzafon. But the person could be standing in the south and leaning his hand into the north. However, Aval, yeah. And if you'll ask, didn't we learn that already from Rabbi Achia? So it says more. We already learned that we are going to exclude the person from having to stand in the north. You're right. We did learn that out already. So instead, we're teaching you that the person who receives the blood has to be in the north. Says the Gemara, we learned that already also. And the words vilakach can be rearranged to be lokach. He has to take. He has to be in the north when he takes it. Says the Gemara, no. no, at the end of the day, this opinion holds that that's not a derivation, not an exposition, and therefore we're going to learn from the word oso that the person does not need to be standing there in the north. Rather, he could lean his hand in and receive it. And that which we learned earlier, that he has to be in the north, he doesn't agree with that exposition. Yeah. Okay, fine. Now, Eshkechan, we found Shchita be'ola, slaughtering with an ola offering, lemitzvah. Kabbalah nami lemitzvah, receiving the blood also. We found a source, it's a mitzvah. So, Eshkan Shchita be'Kabbalah, Eshkan Shchita be'ola lemitzvah, Kabbalah nami lemitzvah Eshkan, but Shchita ve'Kabbalah la'akev minalon. How do you know that slaughtering and receiving the blood is absolutely necessary? And if you don't do it, it's totally invalid. By it doesn't mean in general. It means in the north. How do they read it? In the north. In general, in the north.
I'm not sure where is it not logical inference that the law prescribes for the north or a state?
Yeah. Yeah, in the north, yeah. Yeah. Right. So how do you know that the slaughtering and the receiving and the receiving the blood has to be in the north? How do you know that? And it's absolutely essential, not just a mitzvah, but if you don't do it, the whole thing's invalid. So that we learn. Amar of Adabar Avavitim Rabba Bar Shila Kal v'chomer. It's learned out from a Kal v'chomer. Uma chatos. Interesting Kal v'chomer. A chatos, right? For some reason, we're not sure why, but the Torah keeps saying to slaughter things in the same place as the ola. It doesn't just say in the north. It says in the same place as the ola. So you learn that the chatas offering is in the north because of the ola offering. Now, uma chatas hablami koch ola na'akeves. A chatas offering, it itself is absolutely invalid if you don't slaughter in the north. And it came from the ola. It was learned out from the ola. So ola shabbat mikokah eina din shema'akeves, meaning if a chatas comes from an ola, meaning it's learned out from an ola, then it has to be in the north, and it itself is invalid if you don't do it, then for sure the teacher, the ola, for sure should be invalid if you don't slaughter it there. Says the Gemara, no, you can't say that. Chatas is unique. Maybe it's extra strict because it itself atones for chayve krisis as opposed to an ola. So says Ravina, Amar Ravina, Hakashi le Ravada Barava. Back up. What does this mean? The ikr, the primary source is an ola. Do we ever find that a secondary, a derivative, is more strict than a primary source? How can that be? If something is learned out of something else, it only gains to the first person what it gave you. If I give you something, you can't have more than me. You only have what I gave you. So the chatas, the ola only taught the chatas that you have to be in the north. How could you now say that the chatas is more strict, and if it's not in the north, it's going to be invalid? We never found that a derivative, something that's secondary, is more strict than the primary. Now we're going to bring you 3-4 cases where we do find it and then reject it all and say that we don't find it. Okay. That's such an odd. Let's see. We haven't started though yet. Yeah, let's see. So Amar le Marzutra, Beder of Mari Leravina. Tez Marzutra, Beder of Mari Leravina. Next page below. Really? You never find derivatives that are more strict than their teachers on the primary one? Let's talk about Meiser Sheni. Meiser Sheni you got to bring up to Yerushalayim. If you want, you could redeem it, right? You have a bunch of fruits. You can redeem it outside of Yerushalayim and then eat the fruits in Yerushalayim. But you can't redeem it in Yerushalayim. That you can't do. So, Bahari Meiser Dihu Nifta. So except if it becomes impure. If it becomes impure, So then you could redeem it even in Yerushalayim. So the Hare Meiser, Yehu Nifta, Bilu Lakuach, the Kesef Meiser, Eino Nifta. So Meiser itself, what do we see? It could be redeemed in Yerushalayim, meaning it has a leniency. But its derivative, the food you buy with the Meiser Sheni money. So that food, if you want to redeem the sanctity of that food onto coins, that you cannot do. So what do you see? The derivative, the secondary, is more strict than the primary. The money itself could be redeemed in Yerushalayim. The food you buy with the money can't be redeemed. It sounds like it's more strict. It should have the same rules as its teacher. Whatever happens to the coins should be able to happen to the food. But yeah, we see it's not true. The coins can be redeemed, but the food that I bought with the coins can't be redeemed. So you're more strict. Where do we see this? The things that are bought with the kesef meiser, if they become impure, you can redeem them. That's the first opinion. Rabbi Yehuda yikaver. Rabbi Yehuda says though, the food that's bought with the meiser sheni money cannot be redeemed. It has to be buried. He says, no, that's not because the secondary is more strict. That's just because when you redeem something onto something else, it has to have the requisite amount of sanctity. To put holiness onto something else, you have to have enough. It's like imagine a towel. A towel, if it's not so wet, it can't make other things wet either. It's only a little bit damp, and you want to put it on something, it's not going to make it wet. So the reason why the food that's bought for Meiser Sheni money cannot be redeemed onto coins is because it doesn't have enough sanctity. That's why. It's too far removed from holiness. So Hasam lo alima kedushase lemitvas pidyone. That's why, not because a secondary thing is more strict, because it's lacking in holiness. That's why it's too far removed. So you can only redeem onto coins if you have enough, apparently, a certain level of holiness. This is too far removed, and therefore the redemption is not going to work.
The redemption at the point where you make the travel. Yeah.
So either you redeem onto coin before you make your travel, or you're in Yerushalayim, and now it becomes impure.
If you take produce.
Let's say so two things. Either your coin becomes impure, you got to redeem it. Sorry, either your produce becomes impure and you redeem it, or you have a coin, you brought the coin up to Jerusalem, and now you bought yourself some nice food, and now that food you want to redeem it onto coins. Because let's say it got impure. Yeah,
but that's not the purpose. You had the coins in the first.
Correct. So let's say it got impure. Let's say it got impure. Because the food you bought got impure. Now you're stuck. Yeah, good. Good clarifying. Yeah, good. The Hare Tmura. Okay, we'll see. Also full tractate about it. Tmura, where you want to exchange sanctity from one animal to the next. So what's the rule? Now, we know that if you want to place sanctity onto an animal that's blemished, it ain't going to work. But yet, when you want to transfer sanctity onto a blemished animal, it is going to work. How does that work? Sounds like it's greater. The derivative is greater than the primary, than the teacher. So, Tmura b'harei tmura the ilu kachim lo chayli al balmom kavua the ilu ihi chayli tmura mikoach the ilu ihi chayli tmura. But yet the tmura, it does go onto a balmum, onto a blemished animal. How does that work? Says there's a big difference if we think about it. Where does a sanctity originate from? So when you're going from nothing to something, a mundane animal, and making it holy, that you need more. Because it's totally mundane. It's starting off so much lower down. There, you can only make it holy if it doesn't have a blemish. But if it's already holy and you just want to put it onto another animal, so then that's fine. It's easier to already continue the sanctity than to go in something from nothing. It's like
creating the universe.
it's like Hanukkah, right? They ask that really should only be 7 days, not 8 days. The miracle was 7 days. The first one, so one answer Moshe Feinstein gives is, yeah, but there's two miracles. There's nothing, something from nothing, and then there's continuing it. That's each one's its own. You preach at Hashem for creating oil in the first place, and thank Him for that, and then thank Him also for continuing. So to make something from nothing takes a lot more than something from something. So therefore, it's not a stringency in the derivative. It's just it takes less, and therefore it'll work even on a blemished animal. So Tamura Mikol Kachim Kasi, the Kachim Mikol Chulun Kasi. Okay. Now, what about a Pesach offering? A Pesach offering, if you didn't use it for some reason and now it's hanging out after Pesach, it becomes a shlomim. Shlomim, you have to wave its thighs and its breast as part of the offering. But a Pesach offering, you don't have to do that. So a Pesach offering has less requirements, but then if you leave it over and you don't bring it, now it has more requirements. So the derivative is more strict than the primary. Hare Pesach, who aino ton smicha, you don't have to lean on it. V'nisachim and libations, v'tinufas chazav v'shok, and the waving of the breast and the thigh. Ve'ilu mosar didei tones v'nisachim v'tinufas chazav v'shok. And if you leave it over, now it becomes a shlomim offering, and a shlomim has all these requirements: leaning, libations, waving. What do you see? It is more strict. Says no, because not that it's more strict. It's just part of the Pesach offering is, if you make a Pesach offering the rest of the year, it would become a shlomim. So it sounds like it's by nature has a shlomim aspect already. Pesach b'shar yemos hashana shlomim hu. Pesach itself is the shlomim. So it's not that if you leave it over, now it's the derivative is a shlomim. All year round, Pesach is a shlomim. If you want to make it a Pesach, except for one day, the 14th of Nisan. So it's not that, if you leave it over, now it's more strict. Even before Pesach, it'll be a shlomim. So it's not a good example of a derivative, because even before Pesach, it'll be a shlomim. At any point other than the 14th of Nisan, it's going to be a shlomim. So it's not exactly the best example of, look, you left it over, now it's more strict. Even when you didn't leave it over, it still is more strict. Like nowadays, if you bring a Pesach offering, it'll be a shlomim, and you have all these requirements. Yeah. Okay, so if that's true, so now once again, the chatas offering. How do we get this started? Right, the chatas offering, which is, how do you know where you have to slaughter it? Because it says slaughter where the ola is slaughtered, and a chatas offering itself has to be in the north no matter what. Well, it can't be more strict than its teacher, the ola. Therefore, the ola must be also, it must be absolutely necessary to slaughter it in the north, or else it's going to be invalid. Yeah, that's one answer, that it just can't be more strict. The Ibais aim, another answer, Amar Kra ha'ola, the ola. The ola means bimkomo tehe. It should stay in its place. Then you have to shecht it in the north, the extra ha'ola. So at the end of the day, two reasons why if you don't slaughter the ola in its place, it's going to be invalid. It's either because its derivative of chatas has that requirement, so it can't be less than its derivative, and furthermore, the pasuk says ha'ola. Yeah. But we have a similar concept with a kal v'chomer. It's called dayo, meaning when you learn a kal v'chomer, B from A, so B can only take what A has. It can't be more strict. So if you learn a law from A to B, and and let's say A, is liable for lashes, B can't be liable for death penalty. You can't be more strict than your teacher. Yeah. So that's all chatas and ola. Fine. Asham minalan debayit tzafon. How do you know that asham it requires the north? Once again, interesting. It always goes back to the ola. It's a very interesting. Yeah. You give a whole class now when it comes to Vayikra maybe. So yeah, ashkechan shchita. That's all good by slaughtering. What about receiving the blood? Kabbalah minalan. So says the Gemara. The extra word v'es damo yizrok. You could have taken out the word v'es, and you would have been fine. V'es damo yizrok. So kibul damo nami b'tzafon mekalatzu minalan. Right, there's a pattern here. First, we learn out the slaughtering. Then we learn out the receiving the blood. Then we learn out that the person himself has to be standing in the place, not just reaching in and receiving the blood in the north. And then we learn those are all for the mitzvah. How do you know that it's a preventative, right? That's the trajectory every time. So slaughtering we have, the north we have to receive the blood, but how do you know that he himself has to stand there? Mekabel atzmo minolon. Domo, the S domo. Just 1 second. Maybe here that the S is extra. No, the before was, sorry. Before when it said the S domo to just receive the blood, it was just comparing the two. That the blood is received in the place that it's slaughtered. But now, how do you know that the person himself has to actually stand there? That Rashi explains that it could just said slaughter the asham, the damo yizrak, and its blood will be thrown. But instead it says the es damo. What's the es damo? To teach you, he himself has to be standing there. Okay, now the fourth step of the process, right? Eshchan mitzvah la'akev minalan, and here we're going to get into a tangent a little bit, or a digression, better said. So it says, how do you know that you have to slaughter it? So we're going to find that it repeats the requirement. Except it repeats the requirement in the asham offering that has to do with the mitzorah. So it gives all the requirements in the section of the asham, the guilt offering, and then it repeats it by a mitzorah. So we're going to assume the fact that it repeated it is to teach you that all ashams are absolutely essential to be done in the north. Then we're going to ask, maybe mitzorah is different and it's unique, and then we're going to come back to say no. So, so it says another verse in the 14th chapter of Vayikra. You should slaughter the sheep, the lamb. Thank you. In the same place that you slaughter the chatos, the esaola. So slaughter in the same place that you slaughter the chatos and the ola, the makom b'mkom hakodesh, in a holy place. Because the asham is like a chatas. Okay. So, So now, says the Gemara, okay, so there where do you see it repeats itself? And why did it repeat itself? To teach you that it's a preventative, that you have to do it. If it didn't repeat itself, you would have thought maybe you don't have to do it. It's just a mitzvah to do it. But if you don't do it, it's still valid. Which it repeats itself to teach you that it's not only that it's a mitzvah, but it's invalid if you don't do it. Okay, so now it says the that's why you think it repeats itself. Teach you this. We need it for another brisa. What's that? So something which is part of the general rule. The yatsa lidon b'davar chadash, and it's specified to teach you a novelty. Once it's singled out, it doesn't get put back into the general category, unless the Torah itself put it back in explicitly. So now, what does that mean for us? It's a general category of what? Asham offerings being slaughtered in the north. Then there's a mitzorah offering singled out to teach special halachas, like sprinkling blood on the ear, the finger, and the toe. That's unique. So once it's been singled out to teach you something unique, you would no longer know that the other general rules apply to it unless the Torah specifies that it has those same rules. Which means that a mitzorah, because it's singled out, you don't know anymore that it's bound by the same rules like a regular asham. You don't know that it has to be slaughtered in the north. You don't know. So when it repeats itself by a mitzorah that you must slaughter in the north, it's not to come and teach you that a general asham offering has to be in the north. Rather, it's coming to teach you that a mitzorah offering is also in the north. Because according to this brisa, whenever you have a general rule, and then you single out one of the things in your list to teach you something unique, so now you took the kid out of the class, you single him out. So he doesn't get back in until the teacher says you have to go back into class. Right? He's kicked out of class. So now, at least in my case, I was never around to get put back into class. But a regular case, the kid's kicked out of class. So he only goes back in when the teacher says come back in. So only when the Torah specifies you can come back into the bunch are you back in. So let's see. Ketzad. V'shachat is a kavis, you should slaughter the lamb. B'makom asher yishchad esachatas, the esaola. B'makom akodesh kichatas ha'asham hu. So it compares now. It has to go and teach you again that the Mitzorah offering is slaughtered in the same place in the north. She'ein tamad lomar kichatas ha'asham. Why does it say you should slaughter it like the sin offering? Ma tamad lomar kichatas ha'asham. Why does it teach me that? Lefi sheyatz ha'asham mitzorah l'didom davar chadash b'bo and yadabo and regel. Ba'ozen yamin is because the Mitzorah was singled out that you sprinkle the blood on his hand and its foot and its ear. The guy was that you'd have thought it might not need any sprinkling of blood on the altar or sacrificing the sacrificial parts of the animal on the altar. Talmud Lomar, that's what Torah has to teach you. That the asham is like the chatas. Just like a chatas requires the application of the blood, the emur and the gabe is back, and it also has the animal parts, the sacrificial parts placed on the altar. So too, the asham also requires the placement of the blood, and its sacrificial parts will also go onto the altar. Okay, so that's the problem. We're back to the drawing board. How do you know that you have to slaughter the asham in the north, and if not, it's invalid? If you're going to tell me, I know from the fact that it repeated it by an asham mitzorah, to that I'll tell you back, it was necessary to teach you that because the mitzorah itself has to be taught again that it's slaughtered in the north, and all the rules apply, or else I wouldn't know it. So says the Gemara, well, hold on, im kain, if that's really true, so nichtov b'hai, below nichtov b'hai. Why don't you write the slaughtering of the north just in one section in the asham mitzorah, and don't teach it in the section about the asham? Meaning, why do you have to have it two times? If all you want to teach me is that the asham is something which is brought in the north, so then you just compared the asham to the chatas. So that's enough for us. Once you just taught it over here that the asham is like the chatas, you'll know already that you must slaughter it in the north. Why did you have to say it in the general section of the asham offering? You must slaughter it in the north. This is enough. It tells you the mitzorah is like the chatas, and the chatas in the north. So too, all the ashams will be in the north. From the fact that you had mentioned it twice, one in the general category of guilt offering, and one over here, you have to teach it twice, must be coming to teach us that it's an absolute necessity. And if you don't do it in the north, it's going to cause an invalidation. So we stand strong with our proof. The fact that Torah repeated it twice, once in the section of Mitzorah, and once in the section and once in the general guilt offering section. The fact that I mentioned it twice must be teaching you that it's an absolute necessity and not just for a mitzvah. Okay. Now, says the more not so fast. Hanicha isvirlan yad talidam b'davar chadash. So ihu dilo gamar michlalo. That's very good if you want to tell me that a novelty that's singled out cannot be learned from the general rules, like we just explained. Put in the page of al klolo gamar. But hold on, 1 second. The thing that's singled out, the mitzorah. So it's very good that you're telling me that that you can't learn out the singled out item from the general rule, but apparently you could learn out a general rule from it. Meaning, once we see by the mitzorah that it was compared to a chatas, and therefore we know that has to be slaughtered in the north, to which we're saying now all asham offerings are slaughtered in the north, to which we're saying it's repetitive, it says it twice, to which we concluded to teach you one for the mitzvah and one that it will cause you invalidation. But says the Gemara, hold on, there's another opinion that says that once something is singled out and it's placed back into the general rule, nothing can be learned from it. You can't learn any general rules from it at all. So, ela is svirlan delohu gamar mechlalo, delo chlalo gamar minei. If you learn that when something's singled out, it can't be learned out of a general rule, and no general rules can be learned out from it. It's totally in its own section. Nothing would be learned out from anywhere else. Once it's singled out, it's in its own world. If that's true, so then I need the fact that it's slaughtered in the north to teach you that the mitzorah has to be in the north. But that sheds zero light on any other asham offering. So says the Gemara, Kaven de ahadre ahadre. This is an answer, right? This is coming to answer, not asking a question. Kaven's an answer, right? Yeah. So meaning, says the Gemara, you're right. In general, we can't learn out general rules from things that are singled out. But once the Torah specified by the Asham, kechatas ha'asham hu, it compared the Asham to a chatas, so then it gets put back into the general category. It's just like a regular Asham, which is like a chatas, and therefore we can still have our conclusion. So, Amrle Marzucher Breder of Mari Ravina. Ema maybe say like this: Ki ahadre kra legabe matan damim ve'emurin debayi kehuna. When the Torah says that you should know a mitzorah has to bring a guilt offering, and it's just like the sin offering, just like it for which part? You would have thought maybe it's just like a sin offering for only the things that require a kohen, such as application of the blood, putting the parts onto the altar. Those things need a kohen to do. Aval shchita, but slaughtering, the lo ba'i kahuna, even a non-kohen can do it. Lo mi ba'i tzafon. Maybe that's not included. So when the Torah says the guilt offering is like the sin offering, but maybe it's not like it for everything. It's like it for the things that require a kohen. Slaughtering in the north is not something which requires a kohen, and therefore, who says that that's what it teaches you? Says the Gemara, im kein nema kra ki kechatasu, then it should just say ki kechatas. It's like a chatas. What does it mean? Ki kechatas ha'asham. Why does it say it's like a sin offering? Sounds like, and it's like the guilt offerings to teach you kishar ashamos yihya. It should be like the rest of the guilt offerings, and just like the guilt offerings have to be slaughtered in the north, so too this one also has to be slaughtered in the north. So at the end of the day, the Torah repeats twice that a guilt offering has to be in the north. One in the general section of guilt offerings, and one by the mitzorah. It compares it to an asham. It compares it to the other guilt offerings to teach you that it has the same laws as the guilt offerings, such as it must be slaughtered in the north. Why does the Torah say it 2 times? To teach you that if you don't do it, it's going to cause an invalidation. Okay, now yeah. So it says the Gemara, Lama li la'akshuye lechatos, lama li la'akshuye la'ola. So in that section of the mitzorah offering, it starts off. The shachan es hakevet, you should slaughter the lamb. The makom asher yishchan es hachatas, the es ha'ola. You should slaughter in the place of the chatas and the ola. What do you need to compare it to 2 things? A chatas and the ola. Why does it tell you that? Amaravina, it's true. I need it. Why? If it only compared the asham of the mitzorah to a chatas, below akshe la'ola, and it did not compare it to an ola, what would you have thought? Havamina, chatas. You would have thought, from where is a chatas learned? Mehechan lamda me'ola. So now we're going to begin a little bit this discussion that by the zbachim, by sacrificial sections of the Torah, you can't do double derivations, a double hekish, a double gzeir shava. So the asham offering is compared to a chatas and a ola. We're asking maybe just compared to a chatas. To that we're answering, if it's just compared to a chatas, How do you know a chatas? From an ola, right? That's our conundrum. Every time it tells you, slaughter it in the place that the ola is slaughtered. So where should the chatas be slaughtered? In the place of the ola. So it compares chatas to ola. Where should the asham, the gildarm, be slaughtered? In the place of the chatas. What would happen if it would have said that? That would be a double hekish. It's a double comparison. Ola to chatas, chatas to asham. Says the Gemara, davar halamed behekish, choser malamed behekish. You would have erroneously, it would have been erroneous to say that you could do that because you can't do a double hekish. So therefore, it compared it to an ola to avoid that. It compared it straight to an ola to teach you that. Yeah. So says the Gemara, it's too good. So then just compare it to the ola. What do you need a chatas for? Just say slaughter in the place that the ola is slaughtered. And leave the chatas out of it. What is the sin offering doing here? Slaughter the ashram in the same place as the sin offering and the ola. Why? Just saying the same place as the ola and leave the sin offering out. Says the Gemara, no. Hava mina davar halamed behekish, choser umalamed behekish. You would have thought that if it didn't say chatas, you would have thought that something which is learned out of a comparison can go and teach you a comparison. Why would you have thought that? So, one second. Right, you would have thought that davar halamed behekish is choser umalamed behekish. 1 second. You would have thought that maybe in general this principle would be true, that you can do a double comparison. So therefore it had to mention both of them. Why can't it go straight to the ola? Because if it went straight to the ola, you wouldn't know necessarily that you can't do a double comparison. From the fact that it mentioned both of them, there you see it the best. Right? Because when the Torah mentions both of them, a chatas and a ola, now you wonder, one sec, just go straight to the ola. So yeah, but if you would have done that, you would have thought, you would have never known that I can't do a double comparison. So, because if I could do a double comparison, I would have gone to the chatas. So to teach you both, apparently it's coming to teach you that you can't do this double comparison. You shouldn't think that you could. The chi tema nikshi akushe lechatas. So then, how do you translate it?
And certainly scripture should compare the service Hashem with
Right, that's what you would have thought. Yeah, the chitim and nikshak shul lechatas. So nichale the makish le ikr v'lo nakish le tafel. The hachi actually lechatas the actually leola. The meimar davar lamed behekish sheinu choser umlamed behekish. The reason why I compare them to both of them is to teach you, to make the point clear that you cannot do you can't do a double hekish. Because if it didn't teach you both of them, you could have erroneously thought that you could do a double hekish. To which we teach you that no, you can't, and that's why it compares them to both. Yeah, so basically it's like a two-step process, right? The Gemara is saying that you could have just compared this asham to a kakas offering. Then you would have thought that you can do a double hekish, double comparison, to which the Torah mentioned the ola to teach you. No, it had to teach you the ola to teach you can't do a double comparison. So you couldn't have just said asham to kakas, because then you would have thought you could do a double comparison. To which we say that you have to do asham to chatas to ola to teach you to show you that the asham cannot be a double comparison, has to be compared straight to the ola. But if you just compared it straight to the ola, you would never have known this rule. You had to teach this rule. So that is all the opinion of Ravina. Rava, well, 2 minutes. Okay, Rava says now, Amar Mehacha. This rule that you can't do a double hekesh is learned out from a different place. Kasher Yuram Mishor Zavach Hashlamim. So here we're talking about the bull of the Kohen Gadol. It's being compared to a shlamim, and we're going to compare this to the communal offering that's brought when the court makes an erroneous mistake. So the Ksiv Kasher Yuram Mishor Zavach Hashlamim L'mai Hilchasa. So you should offer these parts of the animals, the diaphragm and the liver and the kidneys, just like you do by the shlamim. So what's it coming to teach me? So if you teach me that this offering that the Kohen Gadol brings, that you have to bring these things, the kidney, the diaphragm, and the liver, I know that already. So it says no, mishum debayi agmur yoseres hakav v'shtei klayos mipar helam davar. The fact that Torah repeated it, it's not for itself. It's only to teach you that by the bull of a communal offering, you have to bring the kidney, liver, and diaphragm. The kidneys, the liver, and the diaphragm. And then we compare the communal bull offering to the he-goat that's brought by someone who erroneously commits avodah zarah. So we learn out from the Kohen Gadol's sin offering. It repeats the fact that the liver, kidney, and diaphragm has to be brought to teach you that really the bull of the communal offering needs to, and that you have to bring the kidneys, the liver, and the diaphragm. From there, it's compared to the idol worshiper who erroneously commits idol worship. He has to bring those two. So the gufei loksiv umipar kon mashiach hu the gomer lahachi itzrich kasher you know. Let's start from the store.